thanks for everyone who's joining us today. As you well know, this Saturday night, AEW will broadcast the second edition of Double or Nothing, this time from Daly's Place in Jacksonville, Florida. And if you've been following along on Dynamite every Wednesday on TNT, you know this is going to be big. With Cody facing Lance Archer in the finals of the inaugural TNT Championship Tournament, Brodie Lee will challenge AEW champion Jon Moxley for the AEW World Championship title, and Nyla Rose will defend her AEW Women's World Champion title against Hikaru Shida. This timing also marks the one-year anniversary of Time Warner and AEW's groundbreaking partnership announcement last May, as well as the inaugural Double or Nothing pay-per-view in Las Vegas, which followed soon after that announcement. So without further ado, to discuss Double or Nothing and all things AEW is Cody, Executive Vice President of AEW. So now let's turn the call over to Cody for some opening thoughts, and then we'll open the lines for your questions. Cody?
Hey, everybody. It has been an honor, really has, for us to continue working and helping provide a bright spot for fans in these difficult times. I obviously am looking forward to Saturday's Double or Nothing. Personally, my match with Lance Archer for the TNT Championship, and us vying to be the first individual to wear it. The rest of the Double or Nothing show will be nothing short of spectacular, from the casino ladder match to the AEW World Championship on the line. Really just an outstanding night, and if we can, take a beat and look back, this is where AEW began. Our first event, officially Double or Nothing, last year, sold out in GM Grand. The circumstances are different this year with the pandemic and COVID-19, but that spirit exists. Otherwise, we wouldn't be on this call. And just for all those attending the webinar and this call, we wanted to do this safely and responsibly, so we're all in separate rooms. Some of us are in different states. And as I often say on BTE, I didn't go to college, so I am not the most technically savvy. So if we have any issues, we'll do everything we can to make sure we get your questions answered. There's a lot more folks on this call than there usually are, so we want to get right to it, and I am glad to start taking questions.
All right, thanks, Cody. So I'm going to open up the lines here. First off is going to be Connor Casey from Comic Book. Connor, can you hear us? Are you there?
Yes, I am.
You're up.
Awesome. Cody, hey, thanks for taking the time to do this today. Really appreciate it. They mentioned the card at the top of the call, and I was just curious, how close is this card compared to what you guys had planned, say, back in early March before so many different things had to change?
That's a great question. I actually would say this card, just to peel the curtain back a bit, 90% of what we potentially had planned. Obviously, we were presented with a curveball, and we're at the plate, and we're hoping to connect. But not a lot of things changed due to COVID-19 and the pandemic in terms of creative. One thing that's just a really bright spot in all of this, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention it, is during this period of time, all the credit has got to go to Tony Khan, obviously the owner and the founder of AEW. But I mean, big time George Washington crossing the Delaware type stuff in terms of the shows we did in Norcross and the amount of matches we had and the patchwork of putting these events together. Him, Kevin Sullivan, Jim Morris. I just want to shout them out. But to answer your question, not a great deal has changed. We've been fortunate to have our stars and our lead individuals on this show, and last night a really nice moment to have not only Matt and Nick Jackson, the Young Bucks, back, but also Hangman Adam Page.
Thank you, Connor. Okay, next up, I'd like to introduce Bill Bodkin and from Pop Break. Bill, you with us?
Yes, guys. Can you hear me all right?
We can.
Hey, Bill.
All right. Hey, Cody. I love doing these. Thanks for taking the time. One thing I wanted to talk about was, what's the mindset going into? Obviously, it's a little different with no crowd, but Double or Nothing the first time. You're the young upstart company, first show ever. Obviously, a lot riding on it. Now you're going into your second year now with Double or Nothing. What's the mindset of you as an EVP and you as a performer heading into Double or Nothing too?
I think one thing that's particularly very important to me is self-awareness. And I was aware of where we were last year in terms of going to Double or Nothing, and a lot of things were discussed about the product. There's a lot of folks who joke about how everything we did during that period of time was almost micro-analyzed and taken just such a deep dive on everything we said because we didn't know what AEW would look like. And here we are a year in, and this is Double or Nothing 2, as you put it, and we're starting to see. We're evolving right in front of the audience. What is the piece of AEW that's the most prominent? Is it the fact that there is such a diverse series of styles amongst the EVPs who all have such a role in the company? Is it trending in one direction? So for me, the mindset is just to continue to make Double or Nothing destination programming, to continue to make AEW destination programming and take what is working and what people enjoy. And that's incredibly difficult to quantify when you have no audience screaming and booing and things of that nature. So you have to really analyze and hope and to some degree guess what people may love or like. But I've been very self-aware throughout this process, and I know the company may look differently than it did, but in my eyes it looks so beautiful because there's such a diverse palette on this show. And I'll give you examples. You have this TNT championship match, this true sports-based tournament that just crazy, the fact that Warner Media and TNT wanted a belt of their own. I can't think of a time in wrestling that the presenting network actually said, we want our own belt. And it was an honor to be in that tournament. And then you have Hikaru Shida and Nyla Rose in, no disqualification and no countouts. And you have the Stadium Stampede, something we've never seen before, taking advantage of the stadium structure here in Jacksonville. And you have young upstarts. It reminds me so much of and please don't pick this apart, but I will say it reminds me so much of a young, stunning Steve Austin and natural Dustin Rhodes when it comes to somebody like MJF and Jungle Boy, and them just vying for who is that future face. The casino ladder match, to have surprises in there and to have that flavor of wrestling presented there and there being a genuine prize to it all. It's just a very diverse show. So I guess to answer your question, sorry for being so long-winded, is my mindset is let this be the most diverse show. Let this be a buffet for wrestling, but make sure it's the best damn buffet that there is.
Fantastic. Thanks to both of you. Next up, Stephanie Francomi from Vulture Hound. Stephanie, are you with us today?
Hi, Cody. This is Stephanie from TIAA magazine in United Kingdom. Calling you from France. I wanted to ask you how different has the approach to the shows changed since the shift to close arenas. Thank you.
Thank you, and always nice hearing from you. This is so wild. There's so many stories online about what precautions wrestling is taking in presenting this, but just to get in the hallway where my office is here at Daly's place, I have to get a temperature check. So not only a temperature check in the parking lot, but a temperature check to get into this hallway. You've seen on the program, if you watch Dynamite, the wristbands on everybody's wrists, doing COVID testing in quarantine situations so that you don't cross-pollinate, the ring crew working overtime to sanitize, the use of masks, as much as you possibly can. It's just been a really unique challenge. Doc Sampson and Bryce, our medical team, are already presented with the challenge of a violent wrestling show. Now there's this global pandemic, and they have just been so above and beyond and countless hours in making sure that everyone is genuinely tested. No one in this bowl, in this building, no one touching a camera or wrestling in that ring hasn't been tested. And that was something that I'm very proud of Team Medical and how they've done. So that's from the production side of it. From the creative side of it, and again, if you've never been on these calls, folks, I get a bit long-winded, so forgive me. But on the creative side of things, I have loved this challenge because you don't have anyone to throw your weight belt to. You don't have that instant gratification of knowing this spot worked, this spot didn't work. You don't have that. And what a way to test your skills. I'm obsessed with wrestling. And I think anyone who knows me on this call knows I'm obsessed with it. So this has presented itself as a challenge that I really want, because to me, okay, no, there's no one sitting in the crowd, but there are people sitting at home. They're sitting there with their family, families together, and they're watching wrestling, and it's my job to entertain them. And I can't know for sure if I'm doing it, and it's beautiful that we have social media. There is a bright side to social media, folks, and it's beautiful that we have Warner Media to tell us, hey, how many people tuned in for this and things of that nature. And I don't want to get too analytical, but I just really have relished the challenge, and I don't want to selfishly speak just to me. It's very clear who really stepped up during this period of time. I'll give you a prime example, that being Chris Jericho. This is a nightmare for a performer, but in a way has been a dream, because I think swords have been sharpened. I think people have honed their skills, and they're going to come out of this pandemic as better wrestlers, and that just creates a better wrestling show for the wrestling fan.
Thanks, Steph, and thanks, Cody. Next up, I'd like to introduce Bill Pritchard from WrestleZone. Bill, are you there?
Hey, can you guys hear me?
We can.
Hello. So, I wanted to clarify something. Tony Khan said the TNT Championship was going to be the number 2 position in the rankings, and I just wanted to ask if you can clarify how that's going to work in terms of, it was probably 3 through 8, or I'm sorry, 3 through 6, going to be in line for different title shots, or just some clarification on that?
Okay, I can answer that. Could you mute your line, because there's a little bit of feedback? Oh, perfect. To answer your question about the placement of the TNT Championship, when we got to the semifinals, Tony Khan did address everyone in the tournament individually. The way it's currently looking is that it will not be the TNT champion will not be ranked. He will be listed as a champion, whereas currently Jon Moxley has big platinum and is the world champion. The TNT champion will not be ranked. So those titles, we're not going to look at them as 1 and 2, and that's because we want to see what becomes of the TNT title. And the only way we can do that, we can't tell you here and now, hey, it's going to be a workhorse title. We can't tell you it's going to be a mid-card title. We can't say any of those things because we've never seen it before. I've literally never seen the belt. So it will grow and have an identity of its own. But I can say, as far as the rankings go, the top 5 will all be non-champions. So the TNT champion and the world champion will be unranked individuals. The top 5 does tend to skew towards, number 1 is going to wrestle for the world championship, but we'll see how Tony takes that a step further as someone who's, a firm believer in kind of the sports-based ladder system that is involved with rankings and the quality of wins, things of that nature. We'll see where it goes, but the TNT champion will no longer be ranked.
All right, thanks, Bill. Next up, let's introduce Dave LaGreca from SiriusXM. Dave, welcome.
Hey, Cody, how are you? Thank you for this.
First off, how did you get? This is a serious call. I'm sitting here sweating bullets. This is a serious call, and you're on here. Your question better be the best question asked, or I'm going to come and find you and literally kick your ass. And everyone on this call is a witness to that. It better be the best question ever.
I actually have 2 questions for you, Cody.
Okay.
Before we get to Saturday, it's the 40th anniversary of Empire Strikes Back, so I was wondering how you're going to celebrate that today. And then looking ahead to Saturday with Brodie Lee, who really never had an opportunity to have a main event match or a championship match, being on the stage, really quick after his debut, being not only in a championship match, but a main event match for Double or Nothing on Saturday?
Well, I'll answer the latter first, and it's very much a proving ground for somebody like Mr. Brodie. He probably will likely not appreciate what I'm going to say, but I will say it. I'm very proud of Brodie Lee in a different aspect in a world that people don't see. He's stepped up considerably as a leader. This locker room is very young, and it needs leaders. I always was in locker rooms that had great leaders, and the wrestling etiquette was taught correctly without bullying or anything of that nature, and the respect aspect of why we shake each other's hands every 30 seconds, it's all right there. And Mr. Brodie and Sean Spears, two guys who have really brought that to the forefront. But his match is a proving ground. That guy can go. Big Rig can go. And I very much look forward to him and John Moxley. We all of a sudden went from being a very light heavyweight company to the board is now filled. You've got individuals like Wardlow. You've got individuals like Luchasaurus, Mr. Brodie, my opponent in Lance. You have these super heavyweights converging, and it's really exciting to see. The former, in your initial question, the Empire Strikes Back, I will have to wait. If anybody knows me, I get very nervous before pay-per-views. I don't take in any revelry. I don't drink. I don't party. I'm very just singular focused, and I know it can border on obsession. But I want to win, and I want the company to win. And The Empire Strikes Back, my favorite movie on earth and the best movie of all time, can wait until the work is done, and hopefully that'll be Saturday night. And if it's anything like when I normally watch The Empire Strikes Back, Brandy will fall asleep around the Hoth battle, which is right at the beginning, and I will enjoy it and love it and get my wisdom from Yoda as he always gives it to me. So, Dave, I want you off the call now. That was it, and I wish you the best, Dave, in your future endeavors.
Okay. Thanks, Dave. Thanks, Cody. Joe Reedy from the Associated Press is up next. Joe, you with us?
Yeah, I am. Cody, thanks for doing the call. Just with being at Daly's place for the last couple months, have you gotten more comfortable with the venue, and what have you learned as far as maybe expanding and working in different spots? Like I know you did the Falls Count Anywhere match a couple weeks ago.
Daly's place is incredibly special. It was already special for us before the pandemic, in a way, as a bit of a home arena. Obviously, being the parking lot was where we had the initial AEW press conference. For me, there's a lot of tools in this sandbox in terms of the space. It's something that we're so fortunate to have at Daly's and its surrounding infrastructure. I just love the fact that the sun sets. Just a personal aside, the sun sets as the show is beginning and going on, and it's a really just kind of a beautiful lighting treatment. One of our master lighting guys, Greg, I know it is a pain for him. He's having to adjust. But I love that, and I love the win last night watching Jake and Arn Anderson sermonize and seeing the wind blow. To have that open air amphitheater that is Daly's place, really, it's made things very easy for us. We have a lot of contingencies, a lot of the places as the world opens up that want AEW, and Raphael Morphy and Chris Harrington have been wonderful about potentially looking into those places. But if we wrestled at Daly's for the foreseeable future, I would have no problem with that. It's a tremendous place, and I can't thank the Khan family enough for having it available for us to work and for us to work safely. But there's a lot of, to answer your question, a lot of tools in that sandbox. Flex Field is behind Daly's place. The bridge on the club section goes over to the main stadium. So there's a lot of room for us within the show to play with in areas you might see.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Cody. Jim Barcelone from the Muted is up next. Jim.
Yeah, thank you, Cody. Follow a little bit up on that because you did answer it a little bit in the previous question, but Florida and Governor DeSantis has been the leader in opening up to pro wrestling. Does it make sense to remain in Florida and Jacksonville because of no crowds rather than to travel to other states with no crowds? Or is the plan, as more states open up moving forward, to go to other states' venues with no crowds?
So I would say the plan right now is to stay in one spot, and the reason being, you put your talent and your production in at risk when you move the show around, and obviously we can meet that risk with proper medical management and the testing and the temperature checks and the quarantine aspect of it all. But it is easier to be in this one spot from now. I don't want to get in a rhythm where we're stuck, because I do hope that the world safely opens back up where the fans can come back in the seats. That live aspect of what we do is incredibly important. But if it was up to me, which it is not, I share the executive role with 3 other wonderful gentlemen, and Tony Khan makes the final decisions. But if it was up to me, I would stay here until it's time to let fans back in, and even potentially let fans back in at Daly's first. You know, there's no secret that the parking lot's starting to fill up with fans. I made a little trip out there yesterday. You know, we can't shake hands or hug, but we can at least acknowledge one another's love for the industry. But it's the safest decision to stay here while the pandemic and COVID and that situation as we move through it.